Hello, everyone. Thank you for joining us today as part of our inaugural Tigunia Virtual Forum. We really appreciate for you joining us today for the presentation, and we hope the information shared during this presentation is beneficial to you and your team after you leave today. My name is Tristan Threlkeld. I'm the Director of Sales here at Tigunia, and I'll be actually the moderator for the presentation. This is going to be about a 45-minute presentation with a 15-minute Q&A at the end, total of 60 minutes. We encourage that you ask questions as this time and the session is ultimately for you and about providing you as much information as possible. All questions are to be asked in the Q&A chat. You should be able to see that window, a little box with a question mark on it at the end. So you can ask questions throughout, and we'll get to the Q&A session at the very end of the section, okay? So if you're not already answered during the presentation, we'll be sure to get those questions answered by the end. So without further delay, let me introduce you to Brad Prendergast.
Hi, thank you, Tristan. Good morning. My name is Brad Prendergast. I'm a solutions developer with Tigunia. And this morning's session is a discussion of easy integration with Shopify and the e-commerce solution offered by Tigunia. In today's environment, e-commerce is important, but even more so over the past several months, it's become more important for a lot of businesses as a means of being able to continue conducting business with their customers. Tigunia has developed a Shopify integration to allow you to have an easy, versatile, and simple solution to work with as far as providing you e-commerce integration. What I'm going to do for you this morning is I'm going to demonstrate some of the key features of the existing Tigunia Shopify integration. What we offer with this integration is we have multi-site support. A lot of businesses may have set up more than one Shopify e-commerce website geared towards different customers, different types of products. This solution allows you to manage all of those sites within one nav or Business Central database. Product integration, we allow for you to manage your products from within one application. You can set up your products that you'd like to have integrate up and for sale or display on your e-commerce site, all from within nav. We allow for the easy loading and processing of sales orders and customer fulfillment, including notifications. And the customers can have that tracking information. The Tigunia Shopify integration is supported on nav 2016 all the way through the current version of Business Central. What I'll do now is I'll jump into the demonstration of the Tigunia Shopify integration. For this presentation, I'll use a standard Cronus nav database. And within the database, as I had mentioned, everything's geared towards around a particular Shopify site. What we have is we set up a Tigunia POS, which allows us to sell data from the Cronus database. When you look at your setup for your Shopify site, and each site, if you have multiple sites, has their own unique individual setups, which allows you to have specific features for each of the sites. In general, you have the basic site information. You specify which freight account, sales tax account gets collected. Shopify does allow for the calculation of the sales tax for you based upon the customer's address and order and the states that you collect sales tax in. If you're charging freight, there's a freight account that would also be used for displaying and charging for freight on the order. When the orders get created in Shopify or from a customer, when they get brought into Nav or Business Central, you have a few options to allow you to easily manage these orders. You can use, when the order gets created, you could use the existing Shopify order number that Shopify has on the site. Or if you would like to use a specific number series for the orders, you can specify the number series for that order. Another feature of this is using the standard nav configuration or standard nav or Business Central configuration templates. You can specify additional information that gets filled in on each of the orders when they get brought into nav or Business Central. This allows you to populate site-specific or order-specific data onto the orders as you process them. When dealing with customers, one of the options that you also have for dealing with customers is if you would like to have a unique customer created for each of the unique Shopify customers, you can set up Nav to create the customer using the Shopify customer number or if you had a specific set of customer numbers for identification, you could use those. And similar to the sales order processing, you could use customer configuration templates to default some of the information that you would require within your NAV implementation for customers. Another option that you have that you would be able to do is you'll be able to set up a default customer number potentially per store. What that would allow you to do is if you have a lot of or a high volume e-commerce solution that you may not want to have a lot of customers created within your NAV or Business Central implementation, you could have one customer created. All of the orders would throw in for this site would come into that customer. However, each of the orders would have all of the unique customer shipping, billing, and selling information on them for identification purposes. Then there's site-specific information that you would send up to Shopify. This solution is scalable, as with Shopify is scalable because Shopify itself as an e-commerce solution can satisfy small stores as well as large stores, and it can grow with you. The same as within the NAV implementation. As I had stated, it's a versatile and rather simple to use, and that's what the target is. It's powerful and simple, so you don't have to deal with a lot of the e-commerce integration type processes. Within each of the stores in Shopify, you could have multiple Shopify locations for fulfillment for managing inventory. But each of the stores, what you could also do is in our store, we have 2 locations. But each one of these stores for fulfillment, or if you have one location or multiple locations, you can actually specify which locations handle your inventory. This is if you would like to have the Shopify inventory listing updated with the information that you have within NAV. If you specify, some implementations would like to have a particular e-commerce inventory location where they're holding the e-commerce inventory so that they could ship, process, and sell these orders as quickly as possible. And they would like to keep the site updated with the inventory within their NAV implementation so that they don't sell out or oversell a particular product. So for each of the locations or fulfillments that you have, you could specify one or many locations, and the inventory will be calculated and sent up to Shopify. Shopify itself, also, we have several other methods, and you do not have to use all of the methods. We have multiple methods that allow you to manage your store. And again, you can start off using some, all, and grow into using some of the other ones. The methods that we have used in the Shopify integration is to allow you to process your orders. As I had mentioned, I'll go through a demonstration of updating your products and keeping your location inventory up to date. So what I'll do now as part of this demonstration, I'll go over is we have set up a Shopify store. Shopify store is dealing with the Cronus information. So you can see our products that are listed on our particular site. What we're looking at right here is the management console. So this is where somebody would be able to go in and manage. And these products we pushed up from NAV. We keep our inventory levels up to date based upon the data that's in NAV. And the inventory that you update, these processes you can schedule to run at certain intervals. In the case of inventory, if you would like Shopify to keep track of the inventory and what's in stock so you don't oversell, Shopify will also keep track of the inventory in between the increments of when you adjust your inventory quantity. So if you set up a quantity, Shopify will track what you sell through this particular site. The next time you update your inventory, that will be the new inventory that you're starting. So if you do have shared inventory locations and you want to keep it up to date, you can do that through this process. Or if you have one inventory location specific to e-commerce, you may not have to update the inventory as frequent, and Shopify will still manage that for you. So now if we go over to our store, and again, Shopify itself is a vast e-commerce solution that's easy to set up. They have a number of themes, number of options, and other add-in applications that work with it. What we have here is we just set up a standard basic store with just some features for the demonstration of the process of this. So if we go into a particular catalog and I'm a customer and I would like to purchase a bicycle, I can go into the store. I can buy this bicycle. I'll go to my cart. And customers have any specific comments on their orders, those order comments will flow into NAV and they will show up on the individual sales orders as comments. I'll go to the checkout process. And I'm already logged in, so I'll fill some of the information to default for the sake of the demonstration. You do have options for shipping that you can charge for a particular customer. In this case, I'll do the expedited shipping. I'll continue the payment. And what we'll do here is Shopify also does support the credit card processing for you. As your e-commerce solution, you can do it through set up your, if you have an existing credit card processor, you can interface that with Shopify, or Shopify does have its own Shopify credit card processing. I entered a test account, so it went through the test gateway or test processing. That would be the experience that the customer would have, and they would go into continue shopping. Then if we go into our management console, you can see that I have an order that's here that we've been authorized. The way I have this store set up, you can have it automatically authorized or captured. In this case, I have it set up to where I want to capture the payment just to have a review. So the customer can enter an order. And now that order is ready to be processed within NAV. From here, you can also create an order manually if you'd like to create an order for a particular customer. I'll set up another one for this customer that I have where you can pick their products. And what I'll do on this order is I'll order 2 bicycles. And this one for the demonstration, I'll push through. And create this order. So now we have 2 orders that were created. Also, as part of Shopify, the notification, you'll get a notification when the customer will get the notification. You can assign the notification emails. So you can see what information you can customize this to go to your customer so they know that the order was processed. So now what we'll do is we'll go into NAV. And again, as I stated in NAV, you can have the jobs processed at particular intervals. But again, for this demonstration, what I will do is I will process the orders. So now we'll tell Shopify to go out and pull in the orders. So here we can see that 2 orders need to be processed. And what we have here is we have the Shopify event entries where we keep track of all the Shopify processing. So now we have orders here that are ready to be processed and created. So the job would download the orders, take care of the information, and then would create the orders. Then through this process, you can actually see orders or data that was set up or processed. And if you had any errors, what you could actually do is you would see that there was a status of an error processing this. For whatever reason there may be that something was set up incorrectly. There may be another type of error, but what you could actually do here is you can monitor for this and you could filter on this and have reports generated just to see if you have any errors. But we had an order that was processed. And if you had an error or particular error, you could handle that error, whatever is based upon what the error message is, mark it as new to be reprocessed, or mark it as acknowledged, meaning you handled it another way and maybe the order came down. So now if we go into NAV, we take a look at the orders. We can see that we have an order that was created. You can see that it was this order and this was set up on this particular POS. This is the internal Shopify order. So now we can go through, and again, I defaulted information from the template. And then now through your standard nav processing, you can process this order through in your shipping process. So in this case, what I will do is I will specify the shipping agent. The tracking number we'll capture from our shipping software. I'll just enter the number. And then what we'll do now is we'll post and process this order. So now that order was posted. So now if we go back into our Shopify integration, we can see that we have a fulfillment notification that we would send back to Shopify. Again, this would happen automatically. It's separated in stages so that the orders will process. They'll create the Shopify events. Those events will then be processed by a job. You could have it near real time or on regular intervals. And that it gives you the near real time processing without having to be dependent upon any connections through the user, because there have been cases where users, if you're processing them and you want the user information to send her out to Shopify real time, if they have any internet connection issues, or if they don't have access to the internet, but you want to be able to continue with the order processing, then you can have this stage. So you can have these go out for each individual entry or in bulk. So when I process this order, I now go up to my Shopify site. You can see that the order that we had taken today was fulfilled. And if I look at this order, the customer would receive notification of the tracking number. If they have multiple shipments, because if they order many products and you are not doing a ship complete, but you're doing partial shipments, they'll get a notification and they'll be able to see each of the fulfillments that you send up. So now when the customer logs into the Shopify site to take a look at their orders or their order status, you can set up so they get notification via email, as well as they'll be able to see the tracking number and be able to track that product. Now, I had also mentioned that you can manage your products within the Shopify integration. So I have a product that I would like to set up, and I called it Brad Super Cool Fake Product. When you set up the products, it links to your standard nav or Business Central items, and it has the additional information that you would want for an e-commerce site or that Shopify uses on the e-commerce site as far as particular options for the demonstration of, or excuse me, for the display of the product. Shopify does allow you to enter search SEO titles, which is search engine optimization. You have SEO titles and SEO descriptions. The body of the message that gets displayed, Shopify does allow for a large text description for you to display on your website. You can make this as long or as short as you'd like. It can be longer than a standard nav or Business Central description. And also this is HTML encoded text. So if you want to have HTML with, in this case, I'll have some bolds and some underlines and some italic text on the website for this particular product, you can specify it in there. The media would be the images that you would like to have Shopify display. The images can be links, or they will actually pull the images from the products that you have specified on this particular product set. This is the individual Shopify sites that you would like this product to be displayed on. Again, if you have more than one site, you can list multiple sites on this listing, and this product you can manage from one particular place, and then each of the products could have their own individual, each of the sites could have their own individual information for each of the products. So these are the sites that this is working with, and for this site, we're going to have this product, and again, Shopify allows us to have products with groups. You can have variants or related products, and these two bicycles, in this case, the standard bicycle and the standard touring bicycle, this is the information that we're going to push up to Shopify. So again, we have the options. You can specify what the options are. And then you fill in the option values and you can specify the price that you would like to have displayed on Shopify. And similar to everything else, you can process this saying, I would like to integrate this, so push this up or update Shopify. So now if I go back into Shopify, we'll see that the Shopify site, we'll see that there's product information that's ready to be sent up to Shopify. So now if I go back over to Shopify, if I take a look at the products that are available on my site, you can see that I created Brad's super cool bicycle. And this was the text that we had put in there and displayed. And these are the images that were uploaded with it and linked to it. So now these products are available on the site. I did not push up any inventory at this point, but the next step would be, to synchronize the inventory for that particular product for that location. So you can see the different, Shopify calls them variants, which are different from what you would call nav variants. It's just they're products that are grouped together and the individual SKUs that are sold. And as you can see in here, each of these products, a cross-reference is created between the Shopify site ID and the nav SKU. Now, you do not have to manage your products from within nav. Again, that's one of the options that are offered. But if you do have another means of uploading products to Shopify, how it is linked into nav is by the SKU value that you have here. So Shopify does allow for the importing and the loading or the manual loading of products. And if you wanted to pull that information down into nav or Business Central for processing, you can. So now if we take a look at our products, we can also see that our inventory levels. Now, for my store now, I think I'm pretty much out of a lot of these products. So what I would like to do is I'd like to go back into nav. And one of the things I had covered you for the locations is what I want to do is I want to update the inventory for this location. So again, simple, I can click on process to update. And again, all of these things can be done manually or scheduled at certain intervals. If I go back to my Shopify site, I see now that I have inventory levels to go up. So what I do is you can process these entries again, individually or collectively. So this is communicating with Shopify. And then now if we go up to our Shopify store, you see now what I ended up doing was I zeroed out all of the inventory for those products. This product, we have 32 in stock. And so that was updated from nav or Business Central. From a management point of view, I had stated that you can see what information you have in this log to show you the entries that you can handle or deal with it. One of the things that you can look at when you're working with these entries, if from a management point of view, if you'd like to see the information that gets sent to Shopify, you can see that. And then also, if you want to look at particular information, again, in this order that I had an issue with, you could take a look at the information that came down from Shopify for the order creation. And this gives you all of the information. And that's also additional sets of information that you can use to fill in and display on your order. And if there's responses back from Shopify, you can actually see what that information is as well. I'll format this so you can see. So we keep track of the information that gets sent to Shopify and the information that comes back from Shopify to allow for further review or adjustments as needed. As you can see, this is a versatile yet easy to use integration between Nav 2016 all the way up to current versions of Business Central and Shopify. At this point, does anyone have any questions?
Sorry about that, Brad. Great presentation. Thank you for that. Let's double check here with the questions that have come in from the crowd. 1 minute here. All right, looks like we had a question that come in regarding, versions and such. Will this work? You mentioned Nav being able to backwards compatible to 2016 and forwards compatible to Business Central, all versions. Will it work will it work outside of Nav or Business Central?
Will this integration work outside of Nav or Business Central?
Mm-hmm.
Well, the integration that we have is developed for Nav and Business Central.
Mm-hmm.
So you would need to use Nav or Business Central to work with Shopify. If you have additional apps, Shopify, there is an app store that you have within Shopify to have different types of products to add to your store that ends up creating orders and working with the products that you have within your Shopify site. So if you have any of the custom add-ons that work within Shopify, if they work with the standard customers' orders and products, then we will be able to process that information as well.
Great. Okay. Looks like we have another question that came in, and I'm not sure if you can see the ones that have been published. It's asking how many objects does this add to the database?
The number of objects is probably, I believe, I don't know the exact number. It's probably 20 or so. But one thing about this add-on or this extension that we have is it does not modify many base objects. It's rather self-contained. There are a few fields that get added to the standard sales documents, sales orders, posted sales invoices, posted sales shipments. So the object set itself may be 20 to 25, but the number of base objects that get modified are a handful, and that the only modifications that we have made were a few fields that hold some data for tracking and presentation, and then everything else is event driven. So that allows you to use this application through the life cycle of your product without having to have something that requires additional, large effort or resource when you want to move to various versions.
Great. Thank you for that. Looks like we got another question come in. It's asking about locations. Will this work for somebody that's got, say, 25 locations?
25 nav locations?
Let's say shop. It looks like my understanding is like, say they have 25 retail locations.
Yes, the number of, there isn't a limit to the number of sites that it would work with, because each site is its own entity, its own setup. So if you have multiple sites, you can have all of those sites listed within one nav company, and then each of those sites, as I had gone through, the orders would be, if they're within one nav company, you could identify which orders were processed for which sites. You could process the events for each of the sites individually so that you have sort of individual interactions. And if you have multiple nav companies and you want separate sites to work with separate nav companies, this information is nav Business Central company specific. I hope I answered that question.
I think you did. Great work there. The other question that recently came in is, will this work with a SaaS implementation? And also it asked about the modern client.
Yes, it works with a SaaS implementation of Business Central. And the modern client, as far as the Business Central web client, is that what they're referring to? I've heard people refer to the modern client. Yes, it does. Again, as part of Business Central, it does work within the web client. For the demonstration, I chose to use Nav 2018 just for try to be in the middle of the road. But it does work within the web client for Nav 2016 through 2018, as well as Business Central.
Right. Right. Okay. I don't see anything else. Let me see if anybody else has any other questions. One moment.
And as I had mentioned with this, as you're going with that, is the focus of this was to have an easy to use integrate and not a lot of overhead management of an e-commerce solution. So you get the power of Nav and Business Central for order processing integrated with the power of Shopify for an e-commerce or a scalable e-commerce solution. So you can scale on both sides. So you can start off with one site, add additional sites, and you still can process those. And it's a solution that will grow with you.
It seems really nice. It seems really slick. It'll work for a lot of Nav and Business Central customers out there. So I would say thank you for your presentation. And want to thank everybody for attending the session today. Really hope the information provided was beneficial for you and your team. They were here. If you'd like to connect with Brad and discuss further, he's put his information on here. You see info@tigunia.com. You can also reach us at connect@tigunia.com, and we'd be able to happy to help you out, talk to you more, and talk to you about Tigunia services. So again, reach out to us at Tigunia at connect@tigunia.com, and we'll be right back to you and provide you answers to your questions and build further assistance needed.